Back to week 3 of our Guillotine League. Quick recap of last week. Chris got the high score, 124.8. Tom, man, that was a close one, 70.08. I'll get into his slide later. Man, I think he was feeling pretty good going into Monday night before Jay pulled out a crazy Monday night miracle. But we'll notice I've got a couple names updated here, so thank you for Reagan sending me a couple names. P. Willie is Patrick, Z. Riggs is Zach, and Schmidt is Caleb. So you'll see those names updated throughout the slides. Tight race for the winner. Really tight race for the loser as well. A significant increase from last week, at least for the floor. We went from a high score of 130 to 124. We went from a low score of 50 because Jamie had just an awful week to a low score of 70. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of a high-low score even for the next couple weeks. I feel like getting a score of 70, usually you're going to be safe a lot of these days. Margin of loss went from 20 points to 2 points, which is wild. It'll be interesting how close some of these weeks get. I imagine that 2.06 is going to be one of the closest margins of loss. Well, we say goodbye to Tom. Doesn't help when you start two guys who have 0 points. Matthew Golden with 1.5. Travion Henderson and A.J. Brown get about 5 points. Dalton Kincaid was fine. Mahomes, Jacobs, and Shaheed almost saved him. I mean, they had great games. But it definitely came down to roster management. Tom didn't start Johnston, and that was a difference. He would have been well above the cut line if he replaced Kyle Williams, as I said last week. But I knew he wasn't going to watch this. And just a Monday night miracle from Rashad White and Quentin Johnson to cut Tom. A little fab update. There's $12,165 left in the market for the 16 teams remaining. There are a handful of teams that have $1,000, so all of their budget. And a lot of people have most of their budget. It's really just Zach who is a big spender this week. And I mean, Jacobs goes for like a ton of fab, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But there hasn't been a whole lot of movement. I'm making this video right off of in a league that a few of us are in. There were about 24 trades in a 3-day period. We exchanged $7,000 of fab within the last 3 days, which is almost the entire fab of this league. So in this league, it's kind of nice. There's not a whole lot going on. We're all kind of sticking with our teams and just kind of rolling with the weeks. Again, this is going in the order that you scored in week 2. So Chris being our highest scorer. Lamar Jackson is awesome. I mean, that really is what it comes down to. Should be awesome again at Monday Night Football. Chris has a ton of players going to Monday night. So I doubt Chris will be like literally safe going into Monday night. I mean, he's a good team. I don't think he should be in danger this week, but I think maybe the biggest weak spot, wide receiver 1, DJ Moore. We're seeing Odunze really take over that wide receiver 1 spot in Chicago. The Chicago offense has not looked great. It has a great matchup this week, but Moore is not looking great. But Judkins is looking great. So moving up that flex 3, going from a literal bench player that is suspended or is at least not signed a contract now to be a flex, like that's great to a great addition to the squad. And I believe he also has Devon Achane going Thursday night. So Chris basically has no one going on Sunday. He's got a bunch of Monday night players. He's got Devon Achane going tonight. And I guess Sunday will be boring for Chris, which is good because he works at church. Johnny, this is a great bounce back for him. Jamar Chase went from nothing to amazing. It looks like on Sleeper he's starting Carson Wentz Fantasy Pros is suggesting Jake Browning, but I'm assuming he doesn't want to stack Browning and Chase in case, just like week 1 when they had a really bad week with Burrow and Chase, that you can at least get some points out of your QB. And Wentz, honestly, could be an upgrade to the Vikings offense. Who knows? The Vikings offense has not looked very good. One of these days, A.J. Brown is going to have a huge week. We saw A.J. Brown be awful week 1, at least get a good amount of targets in week 2. It's just a matter of time that the Eagles are going to be in a competitive game that they're really going to need to throw. Wouldn't surprise me if A.J. Brown has a big week and Johnny's back at the top of the leaderboard. Brogan, I talked last week about Goff being the quintessential wait for QB, and boy, he was rewarded. Goff having an amazing week. The Lions look like they're back. Their game last week, I just wonder if the Packers are the best defense in the league. I think CMC, obviously he's fantastic. Probably the biggest steal in the draft if he stays healthy. He's one that his team has a pretty big difference when we see the ranking slides. That Sleeper has him 5th, Fantasy Pros doesn't love his team, has him 13th. And part of that, I think, is like Mark Andrews does not. He looks like a shell of himself. And if CMC just has an off week, I feel like there's games that like he starts the game, like tweaks something, and then they might hand it off more to Brian Robinson. That Brogan could be in trouble. But I think between CMC and the rest of his, that might be Dontavian Wicks there in the flex. I like that as a flex too. Pittman should bounce back this week. Caleb had a strong week. We got a good amount of green here. I wonder if Kyron. We're hearing reports that Kyron is maybe in a little bit more of a timeshare. Corum looked good this last week, but I mean we've heard this story before. It was just maybe a year ago that Kyron was going to be returning punts and that he was in a timeshare, and lo and behold, that was definitely not true. So maybe he concedes some carries, but it's still his backfield. I don't think he's in a timeshare. It is interesting that he's got Kyron and Walker, who are kind of both. Those are the storylines of if they're in a timeshare, how much work are they going to get? But Malik Neighbors is amazing. I think Shakir bounces back and has a great Thursday night football. I think Caleb's feeling good after tonight, just with the amount of points Shakir's going to put up. And I think Drake May is a great quarterback here. Trey Benson, a great flex down in the 2 spot. Landon, Puka is awesome. I think you just have one of those players that is just, without a doubt, he's going to get tons of targets. I mean, he got a long carry for a touchdown. Tet is an awesome wide receiver too. I think in a couple weeks, Diggs is going to be I think he's actually going to move up into wide receiver 2 territory, even though teams are decreasing. Right now, Diggs is only playing about 50% of the snaps. He's getting a lot of targets. At some point, I think he moves up into like a top 20, top 25, probably top 20 wide receiver pretty soon. The clear hole here is at running back 2. Fantasy Pros has Ford listed there, but I know he's starting Rico Dowdle. Neither of those options is ideal, but I think his wide receivers certainly are strong enough to carry him through. I'm sorry, I don't know who's is who. I have Landon listed here twice. I don't know. I wonder if that's my own slide. No. So I'm sorry. I don't know whose team this is. I've confused myself with my notation here. I should be next, but this team, Gibbs has an awesome breakout. Let's see, Brogan, Caleb, Landon. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what went wrong. But whoever's team this is, and maybe I got Landon's team mixed up with someone else's, but J.K. Dobbins continues to prove me wrong. Gibbs had an awesome breakout. This is Kevin's team. He's going to need Marvin Harrison to get going. Jerry Jeudy is going up against an amazing defense with the Green Bay Packers. That's going to be a tough wide receiver too. This is a team to watch who might be in danger this week. My team, it's always hard for me to give commentary because obviously I like these players more than other people. Even with the recent dud with Sutton, I'm all in on Cortland Sutton. I might be just over-enthused, and I might be fooling myself, but I think he's going to be awesome. And I guess now that I think about it, I got a couple duds with my top players. Drake London has not been great, but he killed the Panthers last year. In both games combined, he had something like a couple touchdowns and 300 yards and a ton of catches. I'm hoping he continues that trend this week playing against the Panthers. Pretty strong flexes. I haven't figured out if I'm starting Dylan Sampson or Evan Ingram. I have Evan Ingram in almost all of my teams, and it's a problem for me because he's not even the tight end one on his team. I don't know why Adam Trotman is taking so many routes and snaps away from him, but he is. And I think Caleb Williams has an awesome matchup this week. Zach Adunze at Dallas should be awesome. He spent a ton on Gibbs to really help his running back room, which was, had a great running back, Bucky Irving on top, and now Josh Jacobs is his RB1. And I think he's great in the long term. This is a tough week. He's playing against the Browns, who just held Derrick Henry to like 5 points, and maybe even fewer than that. I don't think clearly not a bunch of people bid nearly that high. So clearly he wasted some of his fab. Assuming he makes it through this week, that's a great add. It's a tough week to add Josh Jacobs. Marvin Mims as his last flex is tough. He's clearly been phased out of that passing offense. But those third flexes are impossible to find at this point. Patrick, I feel like according to the Fantasy Pros, this looks like a studs and duds team. Amazing wide receiver room here between CeeDee Lamb, Zay Flowers, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Travis Hunter. I'm not quite as high on Zay. Clearly he played well this last week, and I think Zay this week is gonna be great. That Monday Night Football game might be electric. That game might be 45-42, and everyone's getting points. Devontae Adams has had an amazing resurgence this year. But he clearly needs to find a QB because that is J.J. McCarthy. He is not playing this week and probably out a couple weeks. I believe he has Shedeur Sanders on the bench. Not that he's playing either, but he's going to need to pick up somebody. We got a couple people. We actually have two teams that are in need of a quarterback this week. Bailey has gotten Amon-Ra back on track, but Amarian Hampton does not look good. I'm worried he's going to lose even more carries to Najee Harris as he works back from injury. Jaden Daniels probably isn't going to play, and that's going to hurt Scary Terry because I don't think McLaurin's getting those deep balls when Mariota is under center. I think Bailey's lower rated this week on both Fantasy Pros and Sleeper, and it's because of those. It's because of those things. I really want Amarian Hampton to be really good. I drafted him in our Dynasty League. I'm a believer, but I am worried after these first couple weeks. Isaiah, again, Ibuka is as advertised. He continues to deliver. I don't even know, at some point, does he become the wide receiver one over Mike Evans? Has that already happened? Are cornerbacks going to shade to his side? I doubt that. I think Mike Evans is still going to earn the respect of a lot of the cornerback ones, which honestly just keeps helping Ibuka. But this is probably my favorite wide receiver room. Like Nico Collins, always underrated. George Pickens, I hate to say it, but he's box office, and I can't stand the Cowboys, but he's due for just a huge game. He had a good game this last weekend, but I think that he has a huge game coming soon because it didn't even the box score doesn't even show how many DPI calls he got, how many end zone targets did he get. He's going to have a huge game here the next week or two. I think Brian Thomas Jr. Starts getting it going, and even if one of those wide receivers has a bad game, it doesn't even matter. Jordan Mason, what a great matchup. He's going to get a ton of volume. I think Isaiah is going to have a top 3 score this week. Fleming has probably my favorite Guillotine player. I love JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I feel like he just has such an amazing floor. The offense is not humming, but he just gets peppered with targets, and he catches them. He got a touchdown once. Last week, without a touchdown, he's still scoring a ton of points. I know he has Hunter Renfrow on the bench, and I mean, I'd probably leave him on the bench too, but he had 5 red zone targets. He caught 2 touchdowns. Maybe Hunter Renfrow is going to be a thing this year. I love that bench stash. I think that's really gonna help him out. And obviously, again, he's got Bijan and he's got Josh Allen. Even on off weeks, they're amazing. Just a well-rounded team here. Mason just kind of solid across the board. Those flexes are a little lower, but I love Troy Franklin. He's clearly inserted himself as a wide receiver too in that wide receiver room. He's gotten a ton of work. He's gotten a lot of points. Zach Charbonnet seems to be loved by the coaching staff, but he's just been terrible, at least at producing yards and fantasy points. He had 10 carries for 10 yards maybe last week. I think he does a pretty good job blocking and picking up blitzers, and so that's why he gets a lot of work. I just feel like Kenneth Walker looks a lot better, and maybe that's just my view of things as someone who has Kenneth Walker in a league. But I think Saquon is going to need to carry this team. I think Garrett Wilson is fine, and Tony Pollard is fine, Mahomes is fine, but just a lot of fine here. And Saquon is the great. But a lot of weeks, that's all you need. Brian's another one who needs a QB. Fields is ruled out. When I took these screenshots, Fields was not ruled out, so that's why he's the 14th best QB instead of last. So he may be a little bit in trouble. Honestly, I don't love this team. James Cook is great. He had 7 red zone touches. I think that was tied for the most last week with ETN. So I think he's going to deliver a pretty good Thursday night score, and so maybe Shank's feeling good going into the weekend. Cooper Kupp, I'm just not a believer. I know he had a great week. I'm just out on Kupp. That's just a me thing. But I'm starting to believe in Kyle Pitts. The offensive coordinator is starting to hype him up and saying that he's looking more athletic than before. They're getting him more involved early and often. But I don't know if this is just yet another year where I'm going to fall for the Kyle Pitts thing and he is going to disappoint. But I'm a believer. I think he's way higher than tight end 12. So I think that's a great tight end for this point in the year. Reagan, great job. You survived probably Derrick Henry's worst start to or worst score to this season. Assuming he doesn't get injured in the middle of a game. I want Harvey to take over more of the work in Denver, but they are content just handing it off to J.K. Dobbins. Tucker Kraft clearly is breaking out. That was a tough game to watch as a Commanders fan, but he's clearly the wide receiver 1. With Jaden Reed out, Tucker Kraft is just going to get a ton of points. And I think he's probably a top 3, top 4 tight end. We have a couple real tough flex plays here. And I think there's a good chance Daniels doesn't play, which means Reagan would have to start Geno Smith. And honestly, that's not terrible. They play the Commanders, so I think that he could have at least a solid game. because the Commanders' defense has not looked fantastic this season. But yeah, I'm not loving the flex plays, and there's a reason Reagan's down here towards the bottom of the list. Jay, wow, what a Monday night miracle. Needing Rachaad White and Quentin Johnson to get, I can't remember if it was 25 or 28 points. Both getting, Rachaad White with the last minute touchdown. Just wild. Surviving a really, really, really bad Jalen Hurts game. The Vikings offense is really bad right now. I'm not sure Carson Wentz is going to be any worse. I feel like it can't get much worse. I'm sorry, Jay, if you're actually listening to this. Jay's a big Vikings fan. So maybe Justin Jefferson actually gets right with Carson Wentz. That would kind of be crazy. I'm still a Calvin Ridley fan. Here's another our bottom two teams, just weird start sits where Jay started Ollie Gordon instead of Juwan Jennings, which is wild. But maybe he was scared of the injury last week and wanted to start a player who was definitely playing. And so that could be. I get that, but hopefully he's got Jennings in the lineup this week. And Njoku looks like a pretty solid tight end. I think he's one, like Pitts was 12, Njoku's 11. Honestly, I would rather have Pitts than Njoku. Maybe that's because I'm worried about Harold Fannin taking some of those touches away. So our rankings, I've noticed that our rankings get a little weird in Sleeper and Fantasy Pros just based on who people have starting in when I look at this. So some people don't even check their starting, like who they're starting until Thursday night. And so some of the blue values might be oscillating just as people realize like, oh, I bid for this player and he's on the bench and let me plug that guy in. But for the most part, the ones up top, like Fleming and Isaiah, clearly are both liked by both Sleeper and Fantasy Pros. Chris is one of those where like Sleeper loves Chris, Fantasy Pros not so much. Bailey looks like the one that both Fantasy Pros and Sleeper they're out on. So Bailey's definitely on watch this week. This is week 2 in a row that Fantasy Pros just does not like Brian's team, and that's with Justin Fields starting when I actually took this data. So they must not like him even more. So yeah, Shank clearly doesn't use Fantasy Pros as his ranking system. A little recap on my positive and negative regression. I think I did all right. Keon Coleman and Michael Pittman, they scored below what they were projected. Zay Flowers, he had a good game. It was clearly much worse than his first game, but Quentin Johnson and J.K. Dobbins just continue to surprise me. I did say that I think J.K. Dobbins long term I'm lower on him. He only played 45% of the snaps, which is interesting. And I also nailed Tyler Warren going off, but that seemed to be making its rounds to be a pretty normal fantasy take. Jamar Chase, that was the easy one. It wasn't going to get worse. Now, who knew he was going to get about 30 points? And Nico Collins and Jameson Williams, and they were great. Calvin Ridley had a pretty good outing. I think he continues to get more and more targets. But Elik Ayominor, I can't remember how you pronounce his name, seems to look great as well. So maybe Ridley's not going to be getting a ton more targets. And Bashal Tutin, he looks pretty good. He got a little extra work now that Tank Bigsby is out, and really took advantage. I don't think ETN is going to be in a timeshare anytime soon. I do wonder how quickly we get to a 60-40, 65-40, a 55-45, or a 65-35, like in those kind of ranges. I think Bashal Tutin is awesome. Really wish I got him instead of letting Chris have him. AJ Brown, again, like we're headed in the right direction. I do think one of these days he's just going to have a fantastic game. So people that I'm worried about this week that'll be lower than their projections. Josh Jacobs. I mean, he's going up against a great Cleveland defense. Derrick Henry had 5 points. I don't think Josh Jacobs is. I don't think he's getting a touchdown. I think the touchdown is the only way he's doing well. Cooper Kupp, I just cannot believe that he's going to get that many targets and receptions again. Seattle really likes to run the ball. I think they handled New Orleans well. Unless Kupp gets a touchdown, he's not getting over 10 points. Travis Etienne, he did have 7 red zone touches. I think that's the real positive. He's clearly the workhorse. I do think they want to get Tootin more involved. So I think they've already trusted Bashal Tootin in the red zone. So I think maybe instead of 7 red zone touches, I think they start splitting more of those. He's still clearly a good start, but I think he starts to disappoint a little bit this next week. Ramondre Stevenson had 5 catches for 86 yards. That just is not going to happen again. He was fantastic. Travion Henderson, I think, is the better back. I think is going to the second half of the season. So in Guillotine, it's tough because like right now you want Ramondre Stevenson, you don't want Travion Henderson. I think that flips eventually, but by that time the league is so small it might not matter. But Ramondre Stevenson, I don't think can repeat the 5 catches. He went 5 for 5, 5 targets, 5 catches, 86 yards. That's not repeatable. Jalen Waddle, he had a pretty good game last week, but I think this one gets out of hand early. I think the Bills are just going to roll over, run the clock. They're going to a lot of James Cook tonight. I think a lot of Devon Achane. We're going to get some early runs, but then we're going to get a lot of screen passes. I feel like Thursday night games can just get ugly. Shout out Commanders last week. The score did not indicate how much we got beat by. So yeah, I'm down on Waddle this week. Brian Thomas Jr. has to get better. Yeah, he has a wrist injury. Yeah, he's shying away from contact, but he got 12 targets. 12 targets. He's got to be getting better. I think Trevor Lawrence keeps feeding him. Travis Hunter is playing a lot of defense. Targets will keep rolling in. Chasing volume is always a good play. Khalil Shakir, I have 0 stats to back this up. I just love Shakir. I think he has a big night tonight. Just a gut feeling. 0 stats to bring. Marvin Harrison Jr., this is just a weird game. Cardinals go up big. Then all of a sudden, in the last few minutes, the Panthers make it close. They just really didn't get into a rhythm. A lot of running the ball. He got 2 red zone targets, and I think for me that's always what I look a lot about red zone targets. That's why you hear me mention that a lot. The more opportunities you have in the red zone, the more opportunities you're going to get a touchdown. Derrick Henry, it feels like cheating. I mean, last week would be his worst game of the season. Congrats, Reagan, on surviving that. And like I said, George Pickens, he had 4 red zone targets. He had a bunch of DPI yards. I cannot stand the Cowboys. I think he has a monster game this weekend. If not this weekend, it's going to be coming soon. The Bears are not a fantastic defense. So many people are going to be paying attention to CeeDee Lamb, who's also great, that I think Pickens has a monster game. We got a lot going on Monday night. We got probably a high-scoring game. Jared Goff, Gibbs, Amon-Ra, J-Mo, Monty, Laporta, Lamar, Henry, Zay, Andrews, Bateman, Hopkins, and likely might be playing, which is going to hurt Andrews as well. Almost all of these players are being started. Chris has Lamar, Monty, J-Mo, and Bateman. He has 4 guys going. I can't remember if he's starting Bateman or not. But like I said earlier, I don't think Chris will be safe, like literally safe going in, because of how many great players he has going on Monday night. I don't think he should be worried, because I think he's got a great team, but he's got a lot to look for on Monday night. Okay, so my hot take for who's going home this year, or this week, sorry. Like on the numbers, it looked like Bailey was like on Sleeper and Fantasy Pros think that he's going home, but I'm saying Z Riggs. Sorry, this should say Zach. Let me forgot to change that. Zach goes home. Jacobs just has a nightmare matchup. I mean, there's a world where Jacobs gets like 3 points. DJ Moore is, he is really good. There's a chance that he is the number one target again this week in Chicago, and that Odunze gets just a few fewer targets, doesn't get those red zone targets. DK has a bad game every once in a while. I think DK has a great matchup, but as a DK owner, like I feel like there's always the ups and downs, kind of like the AJ Brown. Bauer's injury might make him sit out a few plays. Michael Myers got almost all of the end zone targets, and that could play out again. So if Bauer's, he's only playing maybe 50% of snaps, that's going to spell some trouble. And maybe it's just because I love this team and I would love to bid on these players, but that's my hot take. So good luck this week. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next week.